speed that gave the Marines manning that checkpoint enough cause to be suspicious. And they unloaded into that vehicle with a .50 caliber machine gun. And the idea is that anybody coming at your position who doesn't slow down to 5 miles an hour has to be an enemy combatant. Well, this was at dusk, and Marines are all wearing camouflage, and this guy could just be cruising through his neighborhood. We'd only been there for a couple of days, rushing home to see his family, and we didn't know. But it was enough that the Marines got jumpy, and they shot a burst of .50 cal rounds into this vehicle. Next slide, please. And so the bullets started at the bumper and went up through the engine compartment, and then one round at least hit this Iraqi in the chest so hard that it broke his chair backwards. And we saw the vehicle burning in the distance. And of course, a vehicle that's caught on fire is going to make some noise, but everybody tried to justify and said, oh, they heard rounds cooking off, as in from the fire. AK-47 rounds were bursting in the trunk or somewhere in the car. And they dragged the car into the area where we were sleeping the next day, and we didn't even question that, but it was clear that there were no rounds or holes from rounds that were cooking off in the side of this car. And next slide, please. This is me posing on the hood of that car, and as was alluded to earlier, it felt funny because, not because what we were doing was morally wrong, but because I wasn't the one that killed this guy. And there was a group of us Marines that all took turns taking pictures and posing like this. And at the first Winter Soldier in 1971, one of the testifiers showed a similar picture and said, "Don't ever let your government do this to you." And still our government is doing this to patriotic young men and women of this country who have volunteered their lives in the service of this country, and putting them in a situation where this kind of thing is normal. Next slide, please. During the siege of Fallujah, there were a couple ceasefires, adding to the confusion over rules of engagement, but at one point we decided that we were going to let out women and children from the city. And we thought it was the most gracious thing we could have done. And I went out on the bridge. This is the northern bridge over the Euphrates on the western side of Fallujah. And our guideline was, for males, they had to be under 14. If they were old enough to be in your fighting hole, they were too old to get out of the city. So I had to go there and turn these men back. That's what you see in this picture. There's two Marines guarding the position on the bridge and turning away some of the civilians who had just been separated from their wives and children, who we sent across the street. We didn't have any plan for them. It was just, hey, there's a mosque down the road, good luck. And we thought that we were doing something really noble and gracious with that. And it took me a long time before I could step back and think about it, and what a horrible situation and decision we were forcing these families to make. You could split up and leave your husband and your older sons in the city and let them hope they don't, a Spectre gunship round doesn't land on their head, or stay with them and hunker down and just hope that you make it through alive.